Hello, and welcome to a walkthrough of HCL Volt MX Go on Sophie. The goal here is to give you a guided tour that you can follow along with as you're installing and trying out the capabilities of Volt MX Go. If you found this video before finding us on Sophie, go ahead on over to HCLSophie.com and search for Volt MX Go, and then you can follow along with us. Just to give you a little bit about what is included here on Sophie, it'll give you immediate hosted access to Volt Foundry, Volt Iris, a Domino server that we're hosting, the Domino REST API, and the Volt MX Go unique capabilities, including the first touch experience and the sample app, design import, and Volt formula. And what I'm going to go through here today is to follow along with the user guide that you can see on the Sophie page. Feel free to pause as things get set up on your end or as you try them out. And we'll give a little introduction to what is out on Sophie and how to navigate around there. We'll look at the Foundry homepage. We'll log into the Domino REST API. We'll run the first touch experience to install and access the recipes application that comes from that. And then we'll flip over to the Notes client and look at the Domino application in Notes. We'll also give you a brief tour of the Domino REST API scopes inside the Domino REST API settings. We'll look at the Foundry identity and object services. And then we'll finish up by downloading Iris, importing the first touch recipe app into Iris so you can see how that is all set up in there, and give you a taste of programming with Volt formula inside of Volt MX Go's Iris interface. One more thing I wanted to point out. Every time you launch a new Sophie instance, your URLs and your passwords will be unique. So you will need to copy and paste them from inside of the Sophie console or navigation when you're using it. So if you come back and try it again in a few weeks, you'll have to go just make sure you're copying and pasting the new logins and new passwords and new URLs there, because that will be unique for each instance. And so now let's go over and take a look. So the first thing we're going to do is go to our Sophie catalog and search for Volt MX Go. And that's going to bring us into the page here. And let's go launch the product so it can start installing. It'll take about 10 to 15 minutes to install. And while it's doing that, I can just show you we've got some information here about Volt MX Go and about Volt MX and links to resources. And then we also have a guide here, which is what I will largely be following in this video. And you can see as you scroll through, it'll take you through step-by-step launching it, getting it set up, opening the Foundry page, logging in, and so on. So now my environment is all set up, and let's go take a look at it. So starting over here on the left side, you can see that I've got an hour and 45 minutes left until my sandbox expires. I want to extend that because we need some more time here. So I'm going to extend this for 24 hours. And now if I look on the left navigation here, I can see links that we're going to use to explore Volt MX Go. I've got links to Open Foundry and a login ID and password. I've got links to the Domino REST API and their login and password. I also have links to download a Domino admin ID. We'll need that when we want to go view our apps in Domino. And we also have installers and instructions for Iris, for Mac, and for Windows. And we'll use that in a little bit to go look at our sample application inside of Iris. We also have links for the MX Go Sandbox API and links to the Sophie console, which is a good place to go to get all of this information. So let's start by opening up Foundry. So I'm going to click the open link here, and that's going to open up Volt Foundry in a new page. The first thing I'm going to need to do is to go fill in admin details here. I'm going to go put in my name and Go create a password here. And then click Setup. And now it's going to ask me to go log into the environment. So I'm going to use the name and password that I just created. And that opens into the Foundry environment. And we're going to step through this a little bit at a time here. One of the things you'll notice is I've got this banner for the Volt MX Go First Touch app. And this is designed to connect back to your Domino environment and build that connection between Domino and Volt MX using the Domino REST APIs. It's also going to give you a sample application that you can use as a reference when building your own applications and just seeing how things work between Domino and Volt MX and the MX Go connectors. We can ignore this activation message up here inside the Sophie environment. So I'm going to go ahead and click Get Started. It's going to ask for my server URL, username, and password. And to get that, we're going to go back to our Sophie environment here, and we're going to go open up the Domino REST API. And this is the URL that we're going to use inside the console. So I'm going to go paste that here. And then I'm going to go back and copy and paste my login ID and password for the Domino REST API. And once I do that, as you can see, it's building out that connection and setting up the First Touch Recipes sample application. And you can see it's going ahead and publishing the identity services. We'll look at some of that in Foundry in a little bit. Okay, and it's all set up now, so let's go ahead and launch it. And this is taking me into the First Touch application. I'm going to use my Domino REST API login and password again here. I'm going to accept the permission to connect this back to the Domino environment. And when that comes up, you see I have the sample application that started in Domino and was imported into VoltMX using the VoltMX Go design import. And just to give you a little bit of example of this VoltMX application, you can see I have my recipes here. I can go search. So if I search for lemon, for example, it gives me recipes that have lemon in the name or in the ingredients. If I click on one of the items, it'll bring up the detailed information page about it here, so I can see the ingredients, directions, and cook time. I can go edit it if I want. For example, let's call this Thai basmati rice, and I'm going to adjust the prep time to be 30 minutes. And I'm updating this, and you can see that it is down now under re-alphabetized under the T's. And I can also go in and delete it. So I'm going to go delete the caprese salad here and get the confirmation. Now that is no longer here. And if I wanted to add a recipe, I can go add a recipe, upload an image, add the ingredients, and so on. So that's a brief tour of the First Touch application. And now we're going to go look at what this looks like inside of Domino. So in order to connect my Notes client to the Sophie environment, there are a couple things we need to do. I need to download the Domino admin ID. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's going to use the Domino REST API credentials here. So let's go admin, paste in the password. I'm going to go save this to my Sophie demo folder. And now I can go over to my notes client and go open it up using that ID. And that's going to use the same password that we used before and for Sophie. And now the client is open. The first thing we need to do is go add a new connection document to connect to the Sophie server. So let's go into the address book. Let's go create a new connection here. I'm going to give it the name, Domino REST API, abbreviated, TCP/IP. And to get the destination server address, we need to go back to our Sophie console. So let's come back to our Sophie page to get the address that we need. And if I scroll down here under the HCL Volt MX Go Sandbox API links, I have a link here to copy that code. Come back to notes and paste that in as my destination server address. Save and close. I go open the application, go to the REST API that I had abbreviated before, and here is the first touch application. And you can see as all of our data, all of the recipe data we had before. You notice my basmati rice is down here as a Thai basmati rice. And we don't have any of the caprese salad that I had deleted before. So all of the data here is synced back and forth between Domino and the recipe application that we're viewing that was built in VoltMX. And you're free to go into Designer and explore it further, make your updates on either side, and start to play around with that as a starting point for a VoltMX application built on Domino. Now I want to go take a look at the Domino REST API details that are in here. Just show a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes and how this connection happens. So I'm clicking on the Domino REST API. I'm already signed in, so I don't need to sign in again. And I can go to configuration and then go look here on the left, the REST API, and I can go look at the schemas that I've set up here for my recipe app. These were all installed automatically as part of that first touch setup, but these are things that you would look to see when you're building out for your own application. So here I can see for my recipes app, if I click on that, I can see all of the fields that are mapped to here as part of my schema and the various settings for how that is all set up here. I can also go and look at the scopes. So I can look at the scopes that were defined for the first touch recipe app. And again, you can go see here, and this is where you go to update it or leave, exit it out, or look at more details if you had other things that you were doing for your own files. So that's a little bit about the Domino REST API administration that you see here. Let's go back to the catalog and let's go to Foundry and let's look at what's happening inside Foundry itself with this application. So I'm opening up the Foundry console. I have my first touch app here. I just want to comment, if you click Get Started again, it will give you options to view the recipes or to go uninstall it. So you can run first touch again. And if you happen to close out of this and want to come back again, we have it down here on the sidebar as well. So you can always get to it again from there. But let's go in and look at the first touch recipes. And you can see a couple of things that were set up here as part of that process. The first is our identity services here. You can see the setup with the OAuth for the Domino REST API. And if I click on that, I can see the details that were set up in terms of the endpoints that are here, the client ID, the client secret. These are all things that were set up as part of establishing that connection back to the Domino server through the Domino REST API. I can also look at the object services. The object services are key elements inside of a VoltMX application. In this case, you can see the elements here for my recipe app. I can look at the fields, for example, and can see all of the fields that are here. And I can click on them and see additional details. If you have your own VoltMX app, you would have the object services set up for that. Again, these are set up to map back to their Domino counterparts. I can also look at our mapping here and see how these were all mapped back. I can even go and run a test to look at that mapping. So here's a get action. I'm going to expand the base mapper, click on the test tab, and I can go run a test just to verify the connection back to my Domino data. It's asking me to allow and give it permission. I'm going to allow that. If I wasn't signed in, I might be prompted to sign in with the credentials again, but I'm still logged in. And you can see it's returning the various fields and information back, resulting from that test get operation here. So again, just kind of cool to show how it's connected and to be able to verify that everything is connected there inside of Volt Foundry. The next thing we're going to do is take a look at Volt Iris and what the first touch app looks like inside the development environment. For this, it's going to be helpful to follow along with the user guide. So I've scrolled down a bit and got to the section where we talk about downloading Iris. And you'll see the instructions here. Over on the left side, we've got links for instructions as well as the download for both Mac and Windows. So we'll let you go ahead and download and install Iris. You can pause the video here for a minute while you go ahead and do that. Make sure that you launch it and have installed any updates it prompts you to add. The minimum version to support VoltMX Go 2.1 is Iris 9.5.50. Now that you've installed Iris, there's one additional step that we need to take, and that is installing the VoltMX Go plugins. This is something new starting with version 2.1 of VoltMX Go. So over on the left here, you will see downloads, again, for both Mac and Windows for the MX Go plugin installer. You're going to want to go and open that up and download the zip file that comes with. And once you have that downloaded, you can go over and click the MX Go plugin installer zip to unzip that. And then go ahead and run the Volt MX Go installation tool there. That will guide you through a wizard that will install the tool that will install the plugins. So we're just going to go through, follow the steps here to go and install the tool. Okay, once that's done, you'll see the Volt MX Go plugin installer here. And we're going to go and click on that, and that's going to open up in a terminal window to go through and give you options for installing the plugins. You'll notice we have options here for installing Volt MX Go plugins in Foundry, as well as in Iris, and also for uninstalling them. I want to go ahead and install them in Iris, so I'm going to select 4. And it's going to go through and give me a couple prompts about where I want to enter it. And then we will be up and running. When that is all done, you can come over to back to your Volt Iris view. It may prompt you to restart it if you have it open. And after restarting, you can check to make sure that the plugins are available by going to Project, Import, and you should see Domino Application there as one of the options. So once you're all set there, we can come back to our instructions and scroll down here to download and install the First Touch sample app. You can see the link here to go ahead and do that. I'm going to click that and then follow the instructions from there. I'm going to go over to the samples code and go grab the URL here. And then I'm going to go to my terminal window and I am going to go clone that. And so that will copy that over to my local drive. And once that is done, and now that I've got Iris installed, I can go ahead and open it up. So we're going to go open Iris. We're going to close the sign-in dialog when it appears. And then we're going to go import the project. So I've already got Iris running. Let's flip over to that. So we're going to go to Project, Import. I'm going to import a local project as a new project, and it's going to be from a folder. I can go navigate over to, I've already got it here, but if you go to your samples folder and scroll down, you'll get to your First Touch recipe folder. And that will import the project into Iris. I've done this before, so we're going to skip the overwrite. Okay, and now the project is imported in here. The next thing we need to do is go connect into Foundry and log into our Sophie Foundry instance. So we're going to go into Settings and go to Foundry, and I'm going to go paste in the URL for my Foundry server. So I'm going to go copy this over and paste it in here, and I'm going to validate it. You can see validation successful message up here. And now that I've specified that in the settings, I can go up here to the top right and go log into Foundry. And we're going to do this with the same email and password that we've been using to log into Foundry. Okay, and we just want to go double check our project settings here. So I'm going to go to Project and Settings. And I just want to make sure that for Foundry, the environment that we're seeing is that First Touch environment. And it may come up automatically for you, but we just don't want to double check that. Okay, next we want to go link our instance here to an existing app in Foundry. So go to the little hamburger menu, select that, and here you'll see you should come up with your First Touch Recipes app in Foundry, and we want to associate that together. And now, when you go to my project services, I should be able to see everything that I've got configured here inside of Foundry. So you can see we've got the REST API services, and I've got all of my objects that were, and all of the commands that we've linked to here for our application. Okay, and so now let's go over and take a look at the actual layout and codes behind the application. So in our case here, they're under templates. And if I go down to components, the way we program this, you can see all the various components here. And let's look at the recipe form, just to give one example here. So here's our recipe form, and you can see all of our various fields here. Here's the recipe name field, our image, prep time, and all of the other ones that we've got here as part of this application. If I want to customize this further, I could go bring in additional buttons or field types and drop them on here. The other main form that we have here is our app card. And this is what's used to show the actual recipe when I bring up the details on it. And again, you can see the various components that are included in here. We also have the mobile application that we could look at and run as well. Well, let's go ahead and actually run and build this application. So I'm going to go to build, and I'm going to build and publish the web application here. We'll come up and ask for what I want to view. I want to view the responsive web in this case. Tell it we want a clean build, and then tell it to build. And this will just take a minute or so as it goes forward. You can see down here all of the everything that it's doing as it goes along, publishing the application to the web. Okay, and so our app is published and ready, and let's go take a look. So I'm going to copy the URL, come back to the browser. And we're going to sign in. And we're going to use our Domino REST API, password, give it permission, and here's our app. Coming back over to Iris, there's one more thing we want to look at, and let's look at the code and what we can do to add some domino formulas in here using the volt formula capability. So I'm going to go over to my project. We've got our code inside of the controllers here. So the main controller has a lot of the code here. Unless I wanted to insert code from my domino applications here, and right-click and add code from formula. And this is now bringing up a pane where I can go and start putting anything I want in here, right? So if I want to put add file save, you can see up here, it's converting it from the domino add formula into the JavaScript using the Rosetta APIs here. So this is just one example. There's a lot more you can do here. Hopefully you'll have a chance to go play around with it and see what you can do. So hopefully that gives you a good feel for what you can do and with Volt MX Go on Sophie and how to navigate your way around the various features. If you haven't already, please join us for our webinar series. You can register for it with the QR code here. You can also find replays of the first few sessions on our YouTube channel, and we'll give you a more in-depth view of all of the capabilities led by the engineers who are developing this, so you get the full inside scoop. Thank you very much, and we hope this has been helpful.